Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of the Couch Warriors. We are calling this our wrap-up episode. You may be wondering why we're doing this. Maybe 4 weeks after the Warriors had finished their season, and maybe 2 weeks after the grand final. Truthfully, uh, life just gets ahead of you sometimes, and that's what's happened with us, and that's why the only time we've had to get to do this done is right now. But we're doing it. 2025 is not over for us yet, and for you listeners. So we wanted to do a one episode where we just chuck in a lot of things like a season review, look at the New South Wales Cup team, thoughts on 2026, the grand final as well, and also the Pacific Championship. So we're going to get into that. But before we get into it all, I just want to introduce myself. I'm John Lazaron. I'm one of the co-hosts here. I'm joined by my co-host Richard, the bandwagon conductor. Letty, how's it going, bro?
Yeah, John, good to see you, mate. It feels like it's been an eternity. I
Yep.
was going to say, I think we could blame it on the Pacific Championship coming up, and we're both, we had a little chat we pressed record here, and we're both pretty pumped for the Pacific Championship. So, looking forward to touching on that. But yeah, it's been an incredible season, one of the greatest NRL seasons I remember.
Yeah.
So many highlights, and yeah, I'm looking forward to just breaking a few things down and seeing whether 2026 is indeed our year or not.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, it does feel like you're right. It does feel like an eternity since we last saw some footy. Well, in terms of Warriors footy, anyway. But we do have the New South Wales Cup to go for because they did an amazing job. But look, we'll get into all of that, mate. So, do you want to kick us off, mate, with the grand final stuff?
Oh yeah, man. Honestly, I thought it was just one of the great grand finals. We've been really treated the last couple of years. I was lucky enough to go in 2023 to see Nathan Cleary lead that comeback against the Brisbane Broncos, and then the Broncos obviously go on to not even make the eight next year. And to bounce back and to put on a show in the finals like they did was incredible. I thought it was such a good game of footy. So much to look forward to. So much to just love about that game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few people talking about it. I'm just going to throw it out there straight out. Do you think that Walsh's performance in that game was the greatest individual performance we've ever seen in the grand final, or let alone in an NRL game?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people, talk that about his performance. That it was the greatest grand final performance of all time. I don't know. I don't get me wrong. I thought it was great. It was a great performance. He did amazingly well, and he's the one that actually got their team back into it.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, he's the one that got their team back into it. So you can look at it from that perspective, of not just the fact of the way he played, but the way he orchestrated everything and the way the influence that he had on that Broncos side. Because he was the one, running all those meters and breaking the line and just, making a lot of post contact meters and stuff. And it obviously lifted his team up because they lost Reynolds. They lost Ben Hunt as well, during the game as well. You would think it would be all over for the Broncos then, but no, they were able to pull through. That try that he scored, under the post, amazing. It was a brilliant try.
Freakish.
And you wonder, sometimes you just wonder. I remember watching it at the time, thinking he could have stayed at the Warriors. I know why we let him go. I know why we let him go, and fair enough too, for the reasons why he went. But I mean, that was that guy there, that guy that just got a premiership ring on his finger was at the Warriors. We gave him that opportunity to start it. I just wish he could have stayed on somehow. But like I said, I'm not. I'm all for families. We're family men. Family comes first, so I understand that. But the what ifs. The what ifs.
He was never going to be there forever. I think that was it. He only got let out 1 year early from his contract, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. There was moments where I was thinking, I saw someone post a picture of him in a Warriors jersey the other day, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that happened. That's right. Wow. I do. Do you remember the first game you played for the Warriors by any chance?
I do. I actually do. It's in my head right now. I'm envisioning it in my head right now. I remember him coming on. He was wearing a headgear.
Yeah,
He was
I
wearing
think
he was
that's
wearing
right.
a headgear and I was like, I mean, there was some hype about him, saying that he was the next up and coming star, and he was brought into the Warriors and injected straight into first grade, pretty much. It didn't take long to get him into first grade, and from the beginning he was immense. I think because he's not the biggest guy around, as you know, and even for a fullback, he's not the biggest guy around. There are fullbacks around that are much bigger than him, but I think he just has a lot of confidence, and I think that's what outweighs some of those areas where he's not as big as others. He's just his confidence
Yeah,
just gives him momentum, and it gives him just courage and stuff, and he just knows what to do. He's not afraid to take the line, and He's also just got one thing about Reece Walsh is that not only is he fast and he's not afraid to take on the line, but he's got a playmaker's ability, which I think most fullbacks modern day fullbacks need to have today. So
Oh,
yeah,
but his playmaking ability is when he's on, like, and I think he is the sort of player who he's going to cost them a few games here and there. He's going to cost them a few games here and there and all that sort of thing. But I think on the whole, like he's an absolute freak. The things he can do with the ball in hand it's second to none. So yeah, he'll probably lose the Broncos a few more games over the years, but he's bound to win them a lot more. I think that game I was talking about, the Warriors game, I think it was against the Storm, was the Anzac Day game, and I do remember. I think we got beaten by a bit, but he came on, and I remember thinking, watching it with a mate, and we were like, this, because obviously, as you said, there'd been a bit of hype about it, but to see him on that stage, I think he obviously scored that try. He had 2 or 3 try assists. He had another potential try assist that was called forward, which it probably was forward, but I think we've seen a lot more forward passes and the NRL in the past month than what that pass was, which would have been one of the most amazing try assists you'll ever see. It was just, it was that pop over. I think it was over Coates there in the corner,
yeah,
and I think defensively, he came up with at least 3 massive defensive plays, which pretty much all 3 of them saved tries. One was on Katoa, I think. One was on Pappenhausen, and then there was their moment where he early in the second half tackled Tui Kamakamika, who was over the line and about to score, and he punched the ball out of his grasp. Storm would have gone up by 18 points and probably would have won from there. So just an absolute game. I mean, I did want to also ask, what was the moment for you in that match? Like I just sort of mentioned a few of them just there, but was there a moment in there you think is the big game changer, the one moment which stood out? Or was it a Reece Walsh moment, I presume?
sorry, bro, I'm just stopping you right there because I don't know what happened with my microphone, and there's a notification on my phone that's saying a new recording track has started due to changes in your device.
Oh yeah, no, that'll be all good.
Are you sure?
It's still recording. Yeah, it'll just be like when I go to edit it, it'll be like a different track, but it'll all be together. Like it's still recording and
Okay, cool.
yeah.
So I'll just pick up from when you asked the question. So the question was what the moment was, right? And I'll just answer that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, bro, because I can see it on my screen as a notification. That's all.
Yeah, I'd say I had it as well. Actually, I just saw it then, but
Yeah.
it's still recording. So and I can hear you. So yeah, it's all good.
Okay, because it says 8%, 86% uploading, so I wasn't sure if it was uploading something else or something. Yeah. So but
No,
anyway, it's at the 8 minute mark is where around the 8 minute mark is where I'm gonna start. Okay, ready?
sweet.
Okay, 3. To be honest, bro, there were quite a few moments that I could think of. The one where you sort of touched on it before, where Reece Walsh defensively, when Katoa, he passed it inside to Pappenhausen and Reece Walsh stopped the try. That would have been a certain try if Pappenhausen got the ball and actually, got shot straight through. But he just it's like he predicted what was going to happen, and then he just played at it, and then that's how he was able to stop the try.
Yeah.
I think that was because that would have been a certain try if he had just gone and followed the ball runner and not gone for the inside ball. They would pass it on to Pappenhausen, Katoa to Pappenhausen. If they had scored there, they would have been leveled. I think it was a 4-point. I think it was a 4-point game at the time.
Yeah.
So I think that would have maybe drowned the Broncos. Maybe not because their intensity was quite high. Their momentum was quite high and strong. So maybe that's the moment because who knows what would have happened after that, because it could have been Storm missed a conversion and then it's a draw, or Storm are hit by 2, and then when you're trying to score points and you're like frantically trying to score points, because the clock is winding down, you do silly things. You're just throwing things at the ball. Not things always come to pass. So who knows what would have happened. So for me, that's one of the moments I think, but that's the one I can think of right now on top of my head. Is that moment where Reece Walsh sort of stopped that try. It looked like a certain try. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one on Kamakamika was for me, but yeah, I mean, he had literally had 6 moments, which you could say, that was probably that had a lot of reason. I mean, there's absolutely no way that the Broncos win that game without him on the field. Even if the Broncos lost, I think he was still a clear Dally M for that game, because I've just never seen someone put their fingerprints all over the ball and all over a game, and the way it played out like that, and to do it in a grand final, just incredible. So,
Yeah.
just real
Well,
quickly, I wanted to ask you on the Broncos, they've opened up as favourites for next season
have they? Oh.
at the TAB. Would you be diving into them as favourites next season, or are you still not convinced on the consistency?
Nah, I'm not. Yeah, I hate them. Basically, nah. Honestly, I've never really liked the Broncos. As
You're
a
preaching to
team.
converted.
Yeah, but and I've also got a lot of mates that actually love they support the Broncos even above the Warriors. So that this had a little this. I mean, I don't support the Storm. I don't support the
No.
Storm either. But to be honest with you, I was going for the Storm in this game just because I just didn't want the Broncos to win. I wanted to shove it in my mates' faces, but yeah, no, it was the other way around. I just pretended I wasn't listening to wasn't looking at their messages, on the group chat later on. So, um, no, I mean, fair enough. They deserved it. Probably, they just won a premiership, and if they play like that week in week out, but they pulled out their socks right at the right time, didn't they? Because they didn't look that flashy before the finals. They looked pretty average, to be honest.
Yeah.
They look pretty average to me, and they pulled some good games out, and they just like against Canberra as well, where they just beat Canberra. So they just took it game by game and got it done. So yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of reps for Michael Maguire as a coach. I think he's a great coach, and he's got the accolades to prove it, especially
A
with the
very good,
Kiwis as well.
a very good resume in the last 3 years, eh?
Yeah,
A 30-0 win against Australia in the Pacific Championship, New
yeah,
South Wales title, and then taking the team in their first year, and his first year coaching them
yeah. So
to the grand final and winning it. So yeah, there'd be a few clubs out there thinking, oh, what if? Obviously the Tigers had him for a bit. It would have been nice if he'd stuck around with the Kiwis. He obviously had was on a bit of momentum there, but wasn't allowed to
that
once he
was
started.
stupid to me. That was
Yeah, it
stupid.
was
That
real
was so
dumb.
stupid to me. I mean, he
Yeah,
could have done both. He could have done both, and then I mean, we can go talk about the Kiwis later on, but just want to throw this in there quickly. Is that when you've got Wayne Bennett saying I want to coach the Kiwis, and you don't go for someone like and it showed in our results last season. It showed that we
it
made the
did.
wrong choice in the head coach. But we'll talk about that later on anyway. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in there.
Nice. No. You're preaching the converted there. So
Yeah,
that's probably all we need to talk about that game. Was a great grand final. I loved it. Similar to you, I really don't like the Broncos, but I had to admire that performance, and I
yeah,
just I had to give Reece Welsh the highest praise because I don't know if I remember seeing not even in a grand final, just in an NRL game in general. I don't remember seeing such a dominant game. I think he scored about 250 points in Supercoach, which for any of those Supercoach fans out there, it's quite a lot of points to score in 1 week. You don't see that every week, so
yeah.
yeah. Hopefully, we'll see what happens with the Broncos next year. Maybe Broncos Warriors final. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Well, let's hope. Let's hope. But no, you're right. You gotta put no, even if you don't like the Broncos, like we don't like them, but you gotta take your take your hats off to them. It was an amazing game, and like you said, all around the season, there are a lot of amazing games this season. It just shows you that NRL is just up there, for entertainment. Such a good,
Yeah,
awesome sport and stuff. So yeah, so nah, congratulations to the Broncos. But yeah, this
still
next
hate
year,
you.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I was gonna say it. But I'm not going to say it about whose year is it next year. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But let's move on from the grand final, mate. I think another team that we've just been giving a lot of praise to the Broncos right now. I think another team that deserves a lot of praise is our boys, the New South Wales Cup team, the Warriors New South Wales Cup team. Amazing,
Amazing.
what they did this season. They played 24 games in the New South Wales Cup this season. They won 21 out of those 24 games. They drew one game, so they only lost two games all season, and one of them was against Dragons, who they played in the final. So they beat the Dragons in the final, 30 points to 12, convincingly in the end. So it was awesome. They scored 797 points for, and against they had 386, which those stats were the best in the comp. So best attacking and defensive team. So they just deserved to win. And then ended up winning the state championship against the Queensland Cup champions, the Burleigh Bears, and they won that very, very convincingly, 50 points to 24. So I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, they're full of NRL players and stuff like that," but they're playing within the rules. They played a lot of New South Wales Cup as well. That's why they're there. They were there. So
Yeah.
that's why they were there. I mean, you can understand when you got Tanner Boyd there playing, just coming from NRL because Luke Metcalf wasn't, was injured, and then he just comes in and then he's back in New South Wales Cup. But hey, it's within the rules, so it's the way it happens. And it was the first Warriors senior premiership. Warriors have won premierships in terms of
South Wales
back in the
Cup.
day, yeah, Toyota Cup, Holden Cup when it was
Yeah.
called back then, in the
Yeah,
20s.
New South Wales Cup. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've won those
MLC. Yeah.
things. Yeah, they've won those, but this is the first senior premiership that the Warriors have ever won. So yeah, no, that was great, and I'm just real proud of the boys. And it was actually, do you know what I loved about it? It was that the way they played is because you could say that it's a different level of comp than NRL, but you still got to play like you got structures and stuff, and the way you got to execute them still, and they executed them really well. One guy who I think is deserves a lot of praise, but he doesn't get the praise that he deserves is probably I've just forgotten his name right now. I just had it as the 5'8". What's his name? Luke Hansen. No, Hansen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just forgot it. This happens to me sometimes on the show. Sometimes I just have a name that just disappears. Yeah, I think I thought he was amazing, attacking the line, crisp passing, and I think he does. I mean, looking at some stuff within the Warriors, I don't think he's got a contract beyond 2025. And I don't know where he's going. I don't know why you wouldn't keep him. I mean, I don't know. He might be staying. He might be in negotiations right now. I don't know, but I thought he was amazing, and him and Tanner Boyd, they just carved that whole team up. They scored tries as well. He scored tries as well. So yeah,
Nice. It was nice to see Tanner Boyd taking out. I think he man of the match in the. Was that in
New South Wales Cup.
It's the New South Wales Cup final. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was that or the state championship final. But yeah, just good to see him like playing some good footy after the season he'd had. He was obviously carving up in New South Wales Cup. Probably wasn't quite able to bring the whole sort of that whole form into when he came to the first grade side. But yeah, good to see him, and he's obviously sort of on for another year. On the Luke Henson, obviously he's a good player, and he has been sort of touted for the last few years. But when you look at the depths and the halves that the Warriors have, with Jai Leonard coming, you got obviously young Jet Cleary, and then we've still got our four sort of halves from the season. So we've got six pretty solid halves. So he'll be battling it out. But yeah, I mean, awesome, and just like I think the best thing about this is just like if you pointed out, like people say, people are saying, oh, look at that team, it's stacked and all that, but it does show the depth of the club at the moment.
Yeah.
That we've got enough guys. There's probably a few of them in there who we didn't see in first grade this year, and you sort of asking why, like even, we had a few games where we had centres outs in the first grade, like why they weren't bringing sort of more Graham to Alpha in there. Obviously, Ali Lautoa, awesome to see him playing well because he sort of started off the season as sort of probably the top centre in the club and through injuries and a sort of drop in form. But awesome to see him sort of finishing off the season well as well. And cool to sign off a couple of cult heroes as well. Bunty and Tom Ale, two players who I've always had big raps on. Yeah, so sad to sort of see them go, but it's just where the club is and with these young guys coming through. Yeah, but I'm glad that they could send them off with a win in a championship because they deserved it but yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how this team goes and how many of these guys we'll see in the first grade team next year because there's definitely a few of them knocking on the door.
Oh, for sure, and I'd love to see them. A lot of them, like I mean, if Luke Hansen, for example, is gets a contract extension, I'd love to see him get a run because I thought he was immense. Like I said, doesn't get a lot of praise, but I thought he was really, really awesome. I thought he was immense, and just the way he played, attacked the line, it was like a perfect 5'8", attacked, but also Chris Parking and his passing, and his defense was awesome. I just thought he was great. I was really impressed with Luke Hansen. So hopefully he gets an extension. But you were talking about players leaving. There's other players going, not just Bunty and Tom Ale. Bunty is going to the Tigers. Tom Ale, I think, he's been rumoured to be heading off to the Panthers, along with Toby Crosby, who is in the New South Wales Cup team but didn't play in that grand final. Morgan Harper is no longer going to be at the club. I don't know where he's going. Ed Cossey, I think he's going to Selfs.
Yeah.
So Who else is going to Souths?
Moala grab to Alpha.
Yeah, going to Souths. And and also the man who I thought the inspirational leader of the New South Wales Cup team that took them from start to end on this campaign, and got them the trophies. They got them over the line. Inspirational leader Kalani going. He announced himself. The club didn't announce it. He announced it himself that he was leaving the club after 3 years, and I was quite surprised when I saw that. I was very surprised. Were you surprised when you saw that he was leaving?
Yeah, massively. But I suppose like when I heard that, I just presumed that he'd played a couple of first grade games here and there, but he hasn't even played one first grade game. So I
I
suppose
thought he played for the
when I
Dolphins. I thought he played against the Dolphins, but I mean, I could be wrong.
nah, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure. I saw a stat. I mean, I could be wrong, but
yeah,
I'm sure that was what the stat that I saw. So I was surprised that he hadn't, and it's probably I suppose it kind of makes sense. Like he's obviously there, and like um, he's a good player, but maybe I don't know whether the club just don't kind of. Yeah, there's just other, I got other guys playing that position. Yeah, Tohu Harris playing a lot last year, 2 years ago. And then you had Aaron Clark coming in. We obviously had sort of Jazz Tavaga and Dylan Walker there a couple of years ago as well. And just with some of these other guys who maybe have climbed up the ranks quicker than a lot were
yeah.
expecting.
And you got
But yeah, it's a real shame to see him going because he's obviously, a real talent, a good leader.
yeah,
And from what you can tell, like he seems like he really had a good sort of rapport with amongst the team
yeah.
as a leader. So all the best to him. I really hope that he can. Yeah, I'm sure that there'll be a club out there that's more than happy to snap him up. They'll get a deal, and he could be one of those ones that we talk on the show about these players that go to other clubs and bite us in the bum a little bit. I would not be surprised at all to see this being one of those situations.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I wouldn't be surprised either. But like I said, I just wanted to just give him a big rap, because the whole it was a team effort, obviously, but he's that player, he's that Kalani going is that kind of player that people just you just listen to him. He's an inspirational leader, and always level headed. Wears his heart on his sleeve. I don't doubt that he would have had a major influence over the young guys, the young fellas in the team. He brought I'm sure that he brought the best out of them as well, and he did. He brought the best out of them as well, out of this New South Wales Cup side. And he was, and in the end of the day, he got rewarded for his leadership. He got New South Wales Cup Player of the Year, the accolades. He deservingly got all those accolades, plus all those trophies, all those first senior trophies that we've got as a club. So he's the man on the front line there. So, like you said, don't know where he's going. I heard there's been a rumor that the Penrith are going to snap him up as well. If they
Great
do,
signing.
and if they do, they're getting a good one there because not only are they getting an awesome player, just player and talent on the field, but he's also an inspirational leader. So, all the best to Kalani going because he's the man, and wish he was staying at the club, but he's got to do what's best for him. And I saw, on his Instagram, I think I saw he was in Canberra. He was in Canberra. I think he had ties to Canberra before the Warriors. I think. I'm not sure, but I've heard, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, all the best to Kalani going. I hope he really goes well, and he just deserves the world because he was just immense. There's not enough words you could say about him. There, he was just a great captain and a great player for the club. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did play. You're right. He did play one game against the Dolphins,
I did. Yeah.
2023, round 27. I remember it was that. Yeah, obviously the game before the finals where we rested a whole heap of players, and I do remember him actually.
Yeah.
And he was great.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So yeah, I'm with you there. All the
Yep.
best to him,
Yep.
and to the rest of the players going. Particular Bunty, I'll always have a soft spot for Bunty. I don't know if you've seen that video going around of him like leading some sort of like aerobics or something in the
Yeah.
changing
I
rooms
saw that.
from
Yeah.
a few years ago. It just pops up every now and then, and I was just like, he's a real character and a real crowd favourite. So
Yeah. He'll be
all the
missed.
best to all the boys who are on the move.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, mate. Well, let's get into the big juicy stuff that we wanted to talk about this season. I'll let you kick it off. With our pretty much an overview just of the season. I mean, like we said before, the season pretty much ended about a month ago for the Warriors, and
Yeah.
feels like it's like it's been a long time, and why are we talking about this right now? But I think we should just spend a little bit of time just speaking about our thoughts over the season. So yeah, do you want to kick us off, mate?
For sure, man. Yeah. So obviously, the season as we saw it started off in Vegas, and I don't know. After Vegas, there was a lot of people saying, the Warriors are going to be wooden spooners, and after a very disappointing game against the Raiders, I remember sitting in my lounge. It was a Sunday afternoon because it was obviously in US time, about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And it's like, oh, this is great, footy's
Yeah,
back. And then just watching that, I was so down. I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of these seasons. But the boys picked themselves up and actually and went on a roll from there. Really, I remember
yeah,
that first game they came back against Manly, and Manly had a good win in their first round, and we played them out smart and got a good win. But then and we were tracking along nicely, but then obviously a few injuries, in particular injuries to two key players, and Mitch Barnett and Luke Metcalf kind of. And once those two went down slowly, the form went down. I think we won 2 of our last 7 games or something like that, and then knocked out first week of the finals. So I think at the start of the season, you had the Warriors finishing 6th in your predictions, and I had them
yep,
finishing 8th. So you were bang on.
yep.
So I mean, on the whole, I think I recall we caught up. We did sort of mid-season review, and at that point, I think we both had the Warriors at about an A, because on the expectations and all that. Are you still at an A after the way that they sort of fell off, or
You know,
what are you grading them for the season?
no, I thought about this, and I think you know how there's a lot of people saying that if you had given the Warriors sixth position at the start of the season, people would have taken it by their hands easily, and they would have loved it. I think when the Warriors got on a winning roll, at the start of the season, after the Canberra after defeat in Vegas, and then things just got better and better and better. I think that everyone's expectations got started to get really high, and that's including myself. So when the Warriors were winning, and despite some of the wins being kind of ugly wins, they were still winning, and that was something different that we don't normally see with the Warriors. Normally, when there's a tight game, something always happens that does the Warriors out. And but this time it was the Warriors were actually getting over the line, even if it was just over the line. They were getting over the line and they were getting wins and stuff. And I remember there was one time we were like won 5 or 6 games in a row, and we were just on a roll, and we were in the top four and stuff. And I think from there, everybody, including myself, our expectations just kept slowly rising. So if they lost a game, everyone was like, "Oh, nah, this sucks." They were getting angry and criticizing because of that rise of expectation, because of those victories that we got, at the start of the season, especially when Metcalf and Barnett were around. So I think if you look at it as a whole, and if you calm down and you think about it, yeah, you'd still give them an A because they've done something totally completely different to what they did last season, and they were able to get into the top 8, and not just the top 8. They just missed out on the top 4. Um, but you look back, and I mean, I know it doesn't really count for anything, but the Premiers Brisbane, we beat the Premiers Brisbane in a really tough game as well. So we've got the players to do it. It's just when once Barnett and Luke Metcalf went, everything wasn't just didn't really click, especially on attack for us. Especially on attack for us, and I've mentioned that throughout this whole season. So I'll still give them an A for getting where they did. I was disappointed in the end. They did play well against Penrith. I just didn't think they had any. They just didn't have any more options when it came to attack, and that's why they weren't able to put points on in the end. But I'll still give the Warriors an A for getting to a top six spot position on the ladder when a lot of people didn't think they would make the top 8 at all. Yeah. What about yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to be able to, like, I think I agree with everything you're saying, but just not your grade probably. But yeah, like it was. I
Yeah,
mean,
fair enough.
absolutely
Fair enough.
exceeded expectations for the season. But
Yeah.
I think just from where we were and how we finished the season off, we sort of just went back to our old ways, and it wasn't, yes, we had Metcalf and Barnett went out, but like when you look at the amount of games that we actually lost to injury, I don't know if you've seen that stat. I think maybe the random stats guy's got it up, and he's got the amount of games that each team's lost, like injured players weren't playing in, and Souths were up like 160, 170
Yeah.
games, and we were actually, as far as personnel went, we only had about 35, maybe 40. So we were actually right down the sort of bottom or the top of that list, whichever way you want to look at it. So we were one of the luckier teams injury-wise. So we do talk about these injuries to Barnett and to Metcalf, but for me, I do feel like we had the personnel there that could have stepped up, but unfortunately, Tana Boy wasn't able to sort of go into that seven jersey. Tamari Martin got a shot, got knocked out about 10, 15 minutes into the game, and then they never even started him at 7 again. Like I felt like Tana Boy wasn't really working. I would have thought that maybe they would have given him, given Tamari Martin another shot, because we saw what he'd done the year before. So for me, it was a great season. It did exceed my expectations, but sort of getting to those finals, playing Penrith, in that Penrith game they played awesome. I thought they played really well in that game. Obviously got dudded by a forward pass call, but at that point I think we were only down by 2 points, and then Penrith scored a couple of late tries to blow it out a little bit, but. That was one of our better performances of the season, I thought. So I'll go with a B.
B, fair enough. Fair enough, mate. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'm just giving them an A just because they exceeded expectations, like as you said. But I just think that the reason why there was a lot of critics, including myself, throughout the season, was because of the fact that expectations got really high. But yeah, I'll give them an A just for making the top 8 in the first place. Yeah.
So we've got a B and an A. So obviously interested to hear what our listeners think. So if anyone does any hot takes about where they think the Warriors, how they should be graded for the season, do leave them in the comments wherever you're listening on YouTube, Spotify. Flick us a message on Facebook. Our Instagram audience is growing by the day, so yeah, we're having a good time. I had a couple more questions about the season, John. Just wanted to just run past you. First of all, obviously we had our Wally award went to Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, so he got the most points, the points of the year for the in the Waz games. But who have you got as your best player? Because I know there was a few other names that were sort of floated around, and Roger also won obviously the player of the year at the Warriors Awards. But who was your best player for the season?
For me, Roger, and not just because the LEMs that we did was obviously based on what we thought our points, our points and stuff. And the reason why I was giving him my points is because I think he had a pretty good solid season. I can't remember. There were some stats, and I actually don't have them in front of me right now. But I know that he scored a decent amount of tries in the games that he played as well. The running meters was up. He made a lot of running meters. He made a lot of running meters each game and stuff, etc. So he did his job as a winger, because he's not known as a winger. He's not known to be a winger by trade. But he did it. I thought he did a good job. Did a pretty good job there, and deserved all his accolades this season as well. So I definitely would put Roger up there. I mean, there are others there. You could bring up like Aaron Clark, Leka Halasima, for example. I thought had a brilliant year as well. I mean, there were a couple of games where he just wasn't at his best, but I thought overall he was amazing. He was amazing. So, but yeah, I would give it to Roger. What about yourself?
Nice. Yeah, well, he obviously he went out the Wally and all that,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna go with Aaron Clark for player of the season. Actually, I think he was just on consistency more than anything. I think Roger was obviously brilliant. Second half of the season, he was constantly getting the 6 points a game. But I think Aaron Clark from day one to today, and I feel like in the Panthers game he only played about 52 minutes. I think I read somewhere, which seemed a bit ridiculous because he'd just been such a good signing, so consistent. Yeah. Amazingly didn't score a try all season, but he was just doing so much work both sides of the ball. Just a real workhorse. A mission to tackle. He's a little badger, and then was putting in 40 odd tackles a game as well on top of 150 meters. So loved what I saw from him, and I'm excited to see him signed for another couple of years. But similarly, I mean, if I was to have a back of the year, it definitely would have been Roger, and I think they were the clear two most kind of consistent. Yeah, I did have a couple of other sort of awards, or just your thoughts on a couple of other players that were here and there. So I had most improved. Who did you have for most improved?
Most improved. I'd actually give it to Jackson Ford. Despite the fact that
Nice.
I got a lot of stick, especially from you and this other guy called Rizzy Michael.
What a
That
guy!
punk just wouldn't shut his mouth all
What a
season.
guy!
Yeah, all the comments he put on our channels in regards to me thinking I'm attacking Jackson Ford, but no, I think Jackson Ford. I think because of the fact that he had to play well, I'm saying out of position because he's not normally known as a front row forward. He was playing for a lot of front row this season. I thought he just did a great job. He was playing. He wasn't playing 80 minutes, but he was getting close to it. For some games, and the workload, and he was quite brutal at times, which was awesome. It's good to see. I thought his ill discipline. I think that's just one area of his game that he needs to sort of tidy up, and which is the reason why I gave him sort of some criticism there during the game about his ill discipline. But That's where Rizzy Michael came in and did his thing. But yeah, no, Jackson Ford, I think, and I would put Jackson Ford in there. I would honestly would say most surprised as well as um. Well, this is for most improved. Sorry, this is most improved. So
Yeah, you can give me most surprised if you want as well while you're there.
no, I was gonna say Sam Healy, but the thing is, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because I mean, despite the lack of game time he got, every time he showed up, he was awesome. So um, at the start of the season, you and I we're talking about, Wade Egan should be putting his hand up for a New South Wales Blues jumper. He was in the running for it, and that was no one out there. But then, to be honest with you, I don't know. This statement I'm going to say right now might actually get some people going, what? But there's a part of me that thinks Healy might just be ahead of him. I think he's got a better running game than him and maybe just a better defensive game than him. That's what I'm thinking, to be honest. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be that many people who are going to be too up in arms. I think, yeah, Wade
yeah,
Egan, obviously, he has been there and been very good for the last few years,
yep,
but his form definitely dropped, this season. And yeah, seeing him Sam Healy come through. Once again, just some bizarre sort of selection choices, like playing
yep.
him in that game against the Panthers, but he only came on when Egan was knocked out, and then as soon as Egan had cleared his HIA, they hooked him. So I think he only played 15 minutes in the game. But yeah, I mean, when he was on the field, our attack looks so much better. He
Well,
often offers a heap. So yeah, it'll be a really interesting call next year to
well,
see what they do there.
you're absolutely right. He offers a lot, and he knows when to pick his runs. Like a good hooker, not only is good defensively, but attackingly, he knows when to pick the ball up and run it when the defensive line is struggling to get back to their 10-meter mark. And he did that quite often. He did that quite regularly. And I'm not saying that Wade Egan doesn't do that, but he doesn't do it as much as Sam Healy does. I just thought when Sam Healy was on the field, he lifted the attack, and that's what we needed. And then when he was pulled, like you said, I thought it was quite bizarre as well. Nothing against Wade Egan, like I said just before, we were both pushing, encouraging him to we were shouting his name out. Egan for Blues jumper. We were saying that. We were hoping that we was in pick for New South Wales, but just going on the bits of form of Sam Healy, that what he did in the season, I thought he was amazing, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's just nudged ahead of Wade Egan, to be honest. Yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm interested to
Yeah,
see what happens. There'll be
yeah,
plenty of selection headaches next year.
yeah,
I'll just quickly give my most improved and most surprising. So most improved for me was Dimitrik Waimaga. I thought we'd seen a little bit of him the
yeah.
last couple of years as Dimitrik Sifakula. Obviously, he switched his surname to honour his mother, which is a nice touch this season. But I thought, yeah, he's out and out. I think he played every game but one, maybe, in the end. And had a couple of games where we started, always was more than happy to sort of fill that void, and especially with Mitch Barnett gone, he filled that hole well. There was games where Barnett and Ford were both out, and so he was basically our second middle forward, and Yeah, I just thought he was immense. So love what I saw from him, and looking forward to seeing plenty more of him for the next. I think he's on for about another 2 or 3 years. So and hopefully they lock him up for a bit longer. And most
Yeah.
surprising, I had Leka, who we'd seen a little bit of last season, and I loved what I saw. But he was Gallium second row of the year, or did he? Nah, he wasn't, eh?
No, he
But
was he was up he was up up and
yeah,
yeah,
nominated.
nominated.
And,
Yeah,
and you see who won it with it was Qatar and who was the other one?
he was up for Rookie of the Year as well.
Yeah, yeah. Which I didn't mind him not getting, but he was definitely one of the best. And yeah, to see how far he went as a 19-year-old this season, really really exciting. And he had plenty of good moments to enjoy. So
Yeah,
yeah, great to see. I mean those two featured in the Warriors quite a bit as well. And most weeks we were singing their praises, so I thought they both deserved a little shout out there as well. And can't wait to see a bit more from them. Just quickly, did you have a moment of the season? Your number one, your highlight of the season?
I mean, I wouldn't
Did
call
it
it a
involve
highlight.
Lika Halasima?
Yeah, no, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, okay. No. I think it's a moment where I thought things were going to explode from here for the Warriors in a good way, but then actually went the other way because it was the Cronulla Sharks game where we put them to the sword, and we put them to, the way that we did it though, the way that we did it, we executed our plays well. The attack looked so slick, but also at the same time, I know that teams don't revolve around one player or something, but sometimes you need that player to actually to ignite something. And you got Barnett and you got Metcalf. They had a big roles, but then Barnett got injured for the season in that game, I think. And then the next game against the Broncos, I think it was the Broncos where Metcalf got injured and
Yeah.
he was out. And I think so that moment for me was like we had reached a place where our attack was so slick. It looked so good on that game. It's like finally the execution is working here, and then all of a sudden it just went that one game when it was like up here, then went straight down again because of those losses. So I think that moment, that sort of period between those two games is a big moment for me because of the fact that it looked like we were just going to go booming more and more and more, and then but it went the other way because of loss of personnel.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's I know that's not like what you were asking for. What was your moment of the season? But for me, that was like a turning point where it looked
Oh,
like it was.
no, I think
Yeah,
that fills the brief well enough for me.
yeah,
I absolutely understand where you're coming from.
yeah,
I'm going to get a little more specific with a particular moment.
yeah.
And it does involve Lika Halasima. It's the Knights, the
Oh
Knights game,
yes,
their try, we had about six field goal attempts, it felt like, and there was a charge down one, and he picks the ball out about 43 meters out,
yeah,
and runs to score on the buzzer, which I feel like we just don't see that much from the Warriors. They don't. They often will lose games in that fashion, but yeah, that was just a real highlight. Probably the one moment that I was properly up on my feet, running, jumping, trying not to wake the kids up on a Sunday night. So
yeah,
yeah, that was my particular moment. And there was a handful of moments which probably Leka was involved in. Also, shout out to that Tigers try as well. I think that was round 3 early in the season, and that was when a few people were like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And yeah, he never really. I'm pretty sure he played every game this season as well. So yeah, just as long as he can stay fit, we could be onto a real good one there.
yeah. No, you're fair enough. That I thought that it was brilliant. I mean, I was talking to the United, host, and he actually loves the Warriors, and he was just telling me that we've got a lot of love for the Warriors, but I actually told him that I actually felt sorry for the Knights in that game because
Oh yeah,
when that happened, you had to feel for the Knights because they did everything to. You thought they were going to win it. I don't know if we didn't even deserve to win it, and we got really lucky. We played our jail out of free card, get our jail free card. Sorry, we played that card in that game, and yeah, broke some Newcastle Knights fans' hearts in that game. But it's yeah, he was brilliant. I'm glad he's with the Warriors. I'm glad he's with the Warriors long term. So yeah, nah, Liquor. I'm expecting bigger things from him. I don't think that he's peaked or anything like that. Sometimes people say people peak. I don't think he's peaked at all. I think he's just got
Oh,
more
not
and
at
more to
all.
come. Yeah, not at all. Yeah, yeah, but mate, just going back to the overview of this the season as a whole, I just think that just I just think that this attack we brought it up so many times. I just think we just lacked attack, and if we won just by this barest of margin. So it's I just think that there's something's going to change in 2026 for that. But we can talk about that more when we go into that. Maybe anything else you want to talk about in terms of the season overview? Just a quick summary of the season.
Oh yeah, no, just as I said before, like it were, you get a B, they get a pass. Probably did exceed my expectations,
Yeah,
but just a shame weren't able to sort of like clinch those close games that they had been earlier in the season. As they lost 5 of the last 7. Got a bit stitched up having to play Penrith in the finishing sixth. Um, and lots of moments where you think, what if, but then, you watch that grand final, and I don't think we would have been able to be anywhere near competing
nah,
with the likes of the Storm and the Broncos the way they were playing, even the sort
yeah,
of the Sharks and the obviously the Panthers and the other preliminary finals, whatever they're called, semi-finals.
yeah,
So, but the club's in a good place. Couple, we've just shouted out Becker and Valmaga, but you can't forget the likes of sort of Tennisdale Smith, Edemir Toyava, obviously Sam Healy, Metcalf. Had his best season before he got injured. So if he can stay fit, he'll be a good one to hang around. And yeah, there's still a few positions. I think obviously the outside backs is still a bit
yeah.
of a
It's
problem,
been
a
a
place where
concern.
we're
Yeah,
we're short, and still a few selection. We've talked about it, a few selection question marks, which have maybe they've still been a bit loyal to a number of players who might be off
yeah,
contract the next couple of years. So, um, I'm looking forward to 2026, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of these players coming through and who might be getting moved on soon. But the season got me excited, and
yeah.
I don't think we're going to drop off. Like 2 years ago, we made the top 4, then we dropped off the top 8. I think we'll be back in the top 8 next season.
Oh, I do too. I do too. But can I just quickly touch upon on one thing that you brought up just before is that you brought up about the selection, and that frustrated me this whole season. The
Yeah.
selections frustrated me this season when you had players knocking on the door that were just and players that were actually doing the job but then got shunned out because another player came back in. And DWZ is just a perfect example of that. With Tuapiki having to play wing when DWZ was out injured at the start of the season, and then when he came back, Tuapiki was doing right, but then DWZ came in and he didn't light the world on fire. He didn't. And like I said, I've got nothing against DWZ. I think he's always been a great player and stuff. But I'm pretty sure he would say himself they probably didn't have the greatest season.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and I just think that going back to selections, I just thought I don't know. I thought it was quite bizarre that they just kept on picking players because of reputation. And you can say, well, how do you know that? I don't know that, but it's obvious. It's just obvious that they were picking them because of who they are, their names and stuff, because and what they've done in the past. But I don't understand why you couldn't pick on form. Like we were honestly lacking in that sort of defense. Outside backs area, but we kept on trying to make changes, like putting Kurt Capewell there, for example. And I didn't understand why you wouldn't give someone from New South Wales Cup a go, like Setu too, for example. Sorry, Carly. Those guys were doing amazing. I mean, I don't know. I've heard Setu might have some commitment issues. He's gone from club to club. I don't know. I really don't know. I just heard some people speak about that. But like he was in those grand finals. He was amazing. He was amazing in those finals, and I was just thinking like, why was he not given a chance at first grade when we were lacking in those areas? It just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me. We're lacking in in the halves. I know that Harris Tavita again, he did some great stuff there, but I just thought that he I just don't. I personally don't think he's a 5'8". I really don't think he's. I don't think he's got the kicking game or the extreme attacking game to play there. But that doesn't mean he played a bad season or anything. I'm just saying. I thought that attack was one of the issues, and it wasn't fixed. It wasn't fixed throughout the season. They just kept going on with the same stuff. And you look at, for example, fullback. That was a big talking point throughout the whole season. Not just for us, but for many other people as well. Tuapiki or Chance, and the modern day fullback, as you can see through like James Tedesco, Pappenhausen, Reece Walsh, those guys all have a playmaker's ability. I don't know if Chance has got that. He's a meter eater. He does a great job at carrying the ball and making great meters. But I think you need to offer more as a fullback. I just didn't think that he was the right guy there. I've always had I've always liked Chance and as a player, etc. I just thought that we just went about it the wrong way. I thought there are other players that could have filled that role. Even Tamari Martin if Tuapiki was not available, but it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. They just kept sticking with the same pretty much 13 week in, week out, and it didn't always work. And there were people that could have gone in there and done the job, and they just didn't do it. It was just bizarre to me. The selections were really bizarre to me. So yeah, so I just wanted to say that I've said it throughout the whole season, but I don't know what your thoughts. If you don't know if you'll agree with me on that, but I just thought selections was just very bizarre, and I hope there's a big change next season.
Yeah, there won't be that, will there?
Well, I'm hoping, but I mean that's my rant in terms of the season summary. What about anything else? Otherwise, we can move on.
Nah, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I did touch on it before, but yeah, so there's obviously the fullback issue. I think, yeah, Dallin wasn't at his best, and I think Nuakore is an interesting one. What they'll do there because he was really good in 2023, but he's really lacked the last couple of seasons. I think he's only got one more year in his contract,
Yep.
but and he's on big cash, so I wonder whether he'll either go somewhere else or whether they might keep him around to be sort of an experiment, for the experience. But when like he's supposed to be, a leader of that four pack, and I think he got one Wiley in point the whole season, something like that. So he just wasn't sort of pulling his weight, especially when you've got so many young guys coming
Yeah.
in the middle and in the on the edge, where he can play both those spots. Yeah, just yeah. So I'm with you. Selections next year will be interesting. Probably let us down a little bit this season, and
Yeah.
just obviously the outside back conundrum as well, which we may have a short-term fix with Lofikam Pereira
Yeah.
officially announcing his signing this week. So that's an exciting one for the club. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do there, whether he automatically comes in and adds their much-needed speed, which a lot of people have been saying that the Warriors are lacking.
Well, let's go into 2026 and let's start with that, okay? Because that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you about his signing. He's been brought on, and he's a known speedster, but at the same time, he isn't. He's got a bit of a rep for not having the best defensive sort of ability. But I haven't watched a lot of games. I haven't watched him and played a lot of games. And that's being honest. But he's signed on for three years. Do you think that it was a good signing by us, by the Warriors?
I think it was a great signing. Yeah, I understand that there's the defensive side of it, but I mean, I think the attacking, like if you got what's Dallin at the moment, like he's
Yeah,
hardly like the most solid winger defensively. I know he gets a bit of stick for stuff which happens inside him, but he still doesn't do himself any favors
yeah,
sometimes. So we need some speed, and I think you look at every team in the comp, and they'll have someone who is that sort of game breaker and can just, get the ball from, run 90 meters and no one's going to touch him. At the moment, we just don't have someone like that. Like we've got Dallin and Roger on the wings, who are both sort of, they're not slow, but they're not the fastest wingers in the comp, are they?
No.
You got Chans at the back, who's similarly like great player, great defensive fullback, but sort of doesn't have that attacking spark. So when I first saw his name being floated out there, I was like, yeah, go for it. Especially with there's obviously not a heap on the market, and hopefully he can come to the club and maybe Webster can teach some of those defensive liabilities out of him. We'll see what happens there, but I'm all for that signing and looking forward to seeing him and what he can do in the blue and green jersey.
Yeah, would you rather have picked him or Ruben Garrick? 'Cause I know that Ruben Garrick was also he's on the market now. Come
Yeah.
November 1. So would you rather him or Ruben Garrick? If you had to choose one of
Um,
those two.
yeah, well, it's an interesting one, because we probably. I was gonna like when you first said that, I was like, we're probably more in need of a centre, but we're just equally in need of an outside back, aren't we? I think with Loficam Pereira, he could go to the wing.
Yeah,
You could bring Afaneda too. I mean, they tried it this season, didn't really work. But if they maybe train in the off season, bring Trans into centre, and then Tuapiki at the back.
yeah,
So I mean, it's one of those ones where, as I said before, like there's probably not going to be too much change. Um, Garrick would have been a good signing, but he's also he's a little bit injury prone. I feel like the last couple of seasons he's spent a bit of time on the sideline, and also probably coming to the other half of his career.
yeah,
But you probably could. I mean, they still would have been able to get a good 2 seasons out of him. Adds a good goal kicking thing. So, I mean, I would have been happy either way. But I think that Loficam Pereira, as I said before, I think that speed is what we need. We don't have that speed, and we do have someone now. So I think he's the best of the two options.
yeah. But you also got to remember that we've signed on. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name to be honest, but it's spelled Haizyn Hazen Mellis. Son of a former Warriors.
Oh yeah, from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Rabbits, from the Bunnies.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and he's apparently he's a winger as well, but he's also got speed, but he's also quite tall. So something like Xavier Coates sort of thing, sort of liking. So there's options there now on the wing, and I just hope that it's not just a straight out we just put Dallin there because it's Dallin. I just hope that they're doing something here because of the fact that let everyone fight for their spots. That's the way it should be, not just because of your reputation, sort of thing. And and people could say, how do you know? Again, how do you know it's in the reputation? Well, it's just obvious. So yeah,
Do you know what Dylan's on these days? At one point he was on like 800k, wasn't he? Like
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think.
I
I'm,
think
I'm hoping he's not on that much still, but
yeah, yeah. Nah, I'm honestly not sure, but he'd be on some good money. I mean,
yeah.
it's obvious he'd be on some good money, but yeah, don't know what exactly he's on. But let's lean into something else here because there are quite a few Warriors players that are actually only contracted on for 2026. Now we put a reel out about a week ago. They actually took off really well in terms of we put all the Warriors players who are contracted through to past post 2025, and there are a lot of people that didn't actually know all this, and there were a lot of comments, a lot of people saying this, saying this, saying we shouldn't sign this person on. Let's go over quickly the players that are actually signed on for 2020. And the reason why I want to bring it up right now is because we're only a couple of weeks away from November 1 when players are actually free to talk to other clubs, rival clubs on the open market. That's the rule. And the Warriors actually have 11 players just contracted for 2026 and don't have contracts beyond 2026. So those players are Luke Metcalf, Harris Davida, Kurt Catewell, Marathon Yukure, Tamari Martin, Tana Boyd, Ieremia Toyava, Tanya Tuapiki, Rocco Berry, and Roger Tuivasa Shek. So all those players don't have a contract beyond next season. So my question to you is, out of those players, who do you reckon the Warriors are going to look to extend, and who are the players that they're probably gonna miss out, or they'll be looking to speak to rival clubs? They'll be allowed to speak to rival clubs.
Well, I think when you look at those names, there's probably only maybe two or three who I think other clubs would be really keen on chasing. Just with the point of where they're in the careers. Obviously, as I mentioned, Capewa and Nuakura, they're obviously at the other half of their careers. Nuakura hasn't been playing that great the last couple of years. Capewa's still got it in him, but I can't see us signing him on for another year, especially with all the depth we've got and the edge. Obviously, Luke Metcalf's he's the one. He's number one. He has to be number one. I mean, personally, I'm still not convinced that he's our future in the 7 jersey, but he's probably definitely our best option for the next year or two. Prove what he's capable of this season. Obviously, the injuries is the big issue there, but I imagine that they'll be keen on re-signing him. I still think that there's a spot for Harris Tavita. I know you've got your questions about him, but I mean his numbers were still really good this year, and I think obviously having starting off with Metcalf, they had a good little combination going, and then when Boyd came in, I think that disrupted a little bit. So if he's either in the 6th jersey or if they find a way to he bulks up a bit and he'd be a handy interchange, like a handy utility. He could probably play. I mean, he has played hooker. He's played ups in the half. He's played fullback, and he could play 13 easy enough. So I think that I'll be hoping they keep him around. Tanner Boyd's an interesting one because he obviously re-signed before he was even playing in first grade this year. He was only on a 1-year contract and had re-signed, so he's obviously enjoying his footy. But yeah, I mean, I think from what we saw of him last year, he took
a player option.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So what we've seen from him last year, he's probably not quite up to first grade, but maybe if we get him on an all right contract, and he could win us another New South Wales Cup title, wouldn't be too bad. Tamari Martin, I think it's safe to say that he'll probably only be around for another year. I love the guy, great player, but I was surprised he signed for one more year, but I was obviously keen for. I imagine it wasn't a huge contract. And then you got Eddie Tuiava. I think he's one they've got to make sure they hold on to him because some rival clubs will be chasing. He's got very LA Katoa sort of feel about him, So, and I imagine that he'd be one of the next as far as those young guys goes. And then Tuapiki, obviously. I'm a little bit worried because Chance is on for another year after this. What they're going to happen there? Because, there's a few clubs out there that would die to have a player of his ability. Every time he gets a chance, he steps up and does so well. And then you got Roger, who you imagine it's his last year. He'll probably take up a Rugby Union 360 contract when he's done and pay for his retirement. And then Rocco Berry, love the guy, but I think the injuries might have just they'll be really questioning whether they re-sign him. We might see. I wouldn't be surprised to see an early medically enforced retirement from him the next year. So my 3 would be Metcalf, Tuapiki,
that's fair. I mean, fair. I'm very similar. Like I think Metcalf would be obviously the number one priority, and I think they would go. They were in negotiations with Metcalf prior to him getting injured. Then they sort of paused. But I think those. I would be very surprised if those conversations aren't happening right now as we speak, because we're only a couple of weeks away from November 1. So I'll be really surprised and shocked if they're not talking to Luke Metcalf about some extending the team. I think actually not only will they extend him, I think they'll give him some big money because he's worth it. I think other clubs will pay big money for him. So why wouldn't they do it at the Warriors? Just a quick shout out to Luke Metcalf. I saw on Instagram that he just got married. I think he got married this week. So good for him. He got married here in New Zealand as well. So hopefully him and his new wife are settled here. So hopefully that's just the way that they're thinking to stay in New Zealand. But Luke Metcalf for me is the big one. Harris Tavita. So my issue with Harris Tavita, as we talked about, is not the fact that he's a good player. I think it's his positioning. My issue is a positional issue where I think he'd probably be better as a 14. That's what I'm thinking. He'd be better as a utility rather than actually the starting 5'8". That's my issue when it comes to Harris Tavita. I've got a question mark over Capewell. Like, he's aging, but he's still, he's showing he can still do it. He got back into the Queensland State of Origin team, and when he did, he actually played some really good footy. Helped them get over the line in the end. Cure, I don't see him getting extended, especially on the money he's on. I think New Cure, for example, will go to another club or even Super League. That's my just a prediction. Could totally be
Yeah.
wrong, but I don't think you'll see him come along, and not just because of form or anything, but because of, like you said before, depth. We've got a lot of depth in that in that second row. We've got also Morgan Gannon coming over from the
Yeah,
Super League as
exactly.
well next season. Yeah, so I just think that they're filling up those slots in the roster. So I don't see him pushing on beyond 2026. Tamati Martin, as much as I like you said, as much as I love him as well, I just don't see him getting extended when there's a lot of young guys coming through in the halves position. You got Jet Cleary, as well in there as well, just waiting for his turn. Tanner Boyd is an interesting one. Can do it. We've seen him do it before, but with the depth coming through, will they invest in him to stay on? That is the question. I don't know. Halfbacks are in demand at the moment. Good halfbacks are in demand at the moment. So I'm sure he'd find another club, but I don't know if the Warriors will extend his contract. I don't. I honestly, I'm thinking they won't. I'm thinking they won't. But yeah, that's a 50-50 one for me. But I'm just 51, 49, thinking that they won't. But yeah, if he stays on, all good. It's all good because he can do it. I agree with you with Edemir Turava. I think he should stay on. Very young guy and showing that he could do the job as well. Tuapiki, I would love him to stay. I would love him to stay as well. I think that he's probably the future fullback for the club. I think beyond 2027, I don't know if Chance will stay on beyond 2027. So I think Tuapiki, I love Tuapiki, as you know. Throughout the season, I've just been calling for Tuapiki to get on the field, but I think that he just needs more game time, just in more regular game time. He's just going to continue to show what he's capable of. We already know what he's capable of, but you know what I mean. More game time, the better for him. Got a playmaker's ability as well, so I think that's what suits for me. That's what sticks out for me. Rocco Berry, that's a hard one. I actually texted Rocco Berry last week to ask him a question. He didn't get back to me. Like, far out. I was like, far out. He didn't get back to me. I thought he would
New
instantly
number who
respond to me.
dis?
Hey? Yeah,
New
yeah,
number who
nah. I
dis?
mean, I, exactly. I mean, we haven't spoken in a couple of years since I last interviewed him, but I just still thought that he would have remembered me or something. But yeah, he hasn't responded. I was like, far out. But that's not going to change my opinion about what's happening here. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great centre when he's not injured. But uh, I mean, yeah, I don't know. He's just so injury prone. Will they risk it? Will they risk it? I don't know what kind of money he's on. Though. That's the thing. I don't know what kind of money he's on. He's still very young as well. That's the hard part. He's young, but he's getting injured like nearly every game. Like literally, nearly every game, he's getting injured,
Yeah.
like with a serious injury. So yeah, I don't know. And Roger, I think we won't see him post 2026. Not because of the fact that they think they don't need him. I think he could still play on. But I think that he'll, because he's at that stage of his career where where everything's winding down. I think that he will consider the rugby union path again, where there's a lot of money, and that that R360 sort of competition that's happening. If they're going to throw millions at him, why not? Especially if your career's winding down. So he wouldn't be able to come back to the NRL because today they've put they've warned all players and agents that if you do go to this competition, 10 years. 10 years. 10 years. You won't be able to get back into the NRL. So it's a hard one. It's a hard one. But yeah, those are my ones. Those are my who I think would stay on, who I'd want to stay on, who I wouldn't want to keep on.
Nice, man. Yeah, I think we're pretty similar there. I think Metcalf's a priority. A couple of those other young boys, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens with the likes of Tanner Boyd, Harris Tavita. I think Kate Bunyel probably won't stick around. Roger won't, and then Rocco Berry.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can have a season where he's fit and healthy, it'd be good. But we just haven't seen that ever, have we? So
Yeah. All right. Well, look, as I was just saying, we'll leave it at that for now because I think the episode will stretch out too long. We don't want to keep everyone going over too long with this episode. So we'll wrap it up with the Pacific Championship, mate. That's looming this weekend with the Kiwis playing Tonga for the first. Oh, sorry, Samoa. Sorry, Toa Samoa. They're
Samoa.
playing the first game. I'll leave you to lead that one.
Yeah, for sure. So it should be a really good game. I don't know, like the more I sort of think about this, I'm getting really excited about it. But even myself today, I was talking to one of my colleagues and I sort of thought, oh, I don't know what to do with myself anymore now that the NRL's over. And she was like, what about the Kiwis this weekend? And I thought, oh yeah, that's right. So I kind of, although the more I think about it, like I get really excited and I look at these teams and it's great, but I'm probably guilty of it myself. But I was going to ask you, do you think this competition gets the recognition or like the excitement in the country that it deserves?
Nah, not. I've been keeping a close eye because I'm just genuinely interested in it. But the thing is that these teams, if you look at the Kiwis, Samoan team, and the Tongan team, they all look. They're stacked teams. They look
Yeah,
great. They look great, and they would definitely challenge the Kangaroos for sure. But no, I don't think it has been. But they've been doing. I think what's been awesome as well is they've been trying to promote it by having those fan days and stuff. And then a lot of people have been tuning out. So I think quietly people know what's happening. But yeah, no. I mean, it's a hard one for me. I'm about 50-50 just because I've been keeping my own personal eye on it. I think it's been awesome. But like you said yourself, you didn't realize it was on, did you?
yeah. Well, I obviously knew it was on, but it was more like, yeah, kind of like was talking about how I was real down about the NRL being over, and then I was like, oh no, I've still got like 4 weeks of footy to look forward to. And then obviously there's a few issues with like you don't even know who's eligible for what team anymore, and so when the Kiwis team was announced, I was like, oh, I don't even know who's going to be playing for them these days because like people were jumping ship every week with the whole, the Samoa and Tonga not being tier two, tier one teams. Like, I mean, they have to be tier one teams. I don't see how
Yeah.
you can look at that team on paper, for both those teams and say they're not tier one because they're on paper probably
Correct.
better than the Kiwis. Like I mean, I'll just quickly rattle out the Samoa team, the Kiwis and Samoa teams this week. So for the Kiwis, we've got Chance at the back, we've
Yeah.
got Jermaine Osako and Renato Militalo on the wings, Matthew Tomoko and Casey McLean in the and the centres, Dylan Brown and Kieran Foran in the halves. Kieran Foran playing halfback. One little final swan song. James Fisher-Harris, Jeremy Marshall-King, Moses Leota, Bridget Nakora, Isaiah Papali'i, and Joey Tapane at lock, with Phoenix Crossland, Nafahu White, Aaron Clark, and Nelson Asafa Salamona on the bench. Big Ness getting the nod over Xavier Williamson at 18th man. I thought Xavier Williamson was
Mm.
amazing. In the grand final. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a shot. But then yeah, for Tonga you got for Samoa you got Roger Tuatashik at the back. You got Brian To'o, Murray Tuolagi on the wings, Isaac Tago and Dean Mariner in the centres, Blaze Talagi, Jerome Luai in the halves, Josh Papali'i, Jez Tavaga, Payne Haas, gosh, how good. Jerome Yanai, Jaden Sewer, and Junior Paulo at lock, with you got Chanel Harris Tavita at 14. That's what you want to see for the Warriors, so it'll be interesting to see, John.
Yep.
Simi
Yep.
Sasagi, Terrell May, and Francis Molo. So, you look at those middle forwards, Josh Papali'i, Payne Haas, Junior Paulo, with Sasagi and Terrell May and Molo on the bench. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's anyone's game that like I think it's definitely not guaranteed a Kiwis win, for sure. And then
Yeah.
I did find like a predicted Tongan team. I'll just read it out real quickly, just so you can see kind of how good they could potentially be. So they've got Lehigh Halpawade at the back. They've got Daniel Tupou and Paul Alamotti on the wings. Tolo Tau Koala and Robert Toia. So two of the form centres in the comp, I reckon. Isaiah Ongi and Isaiah Katoa in the halves. Katoa the find of the season really. Vanua Blake and Utoi Komanu in the front row with Saliva Havili. You got Lika Halasima, Ali Katoa playing second row, Jason Tamalolo at lock. And then Sonny Luke,
Far out,
Felice
yeah.
Kaufusi, Mo Wharoeka, and Suia Wong. So, yeah, I mean, you look at those three teams, and I don't think there's much in them, to be honest. So we could be up for a handful of really good weeks of footy. Hopefully the
Yeah.
Kiwis can stay strong and at least make the final. You know, they obviously beat Australia 2 years ago, but last year I think they lost to both Tonga and Australia. And they missed out in the final, so I'm sure they'll be wanting
Yeah.
to make amends
Playing
for that.
catch.
That's for sure.
Yeah. I totally 100% agree with you that you look at those teams on paper like Samoa and Tonga, and you don't know how they're tier 2 nations.
Yeah.
But so I agree that they should be tier 1 nations. I totally 100% agree with you. However, if, for example, just say, for example, NRL or whoever, comes, whatever governing body comes out, does International Rugby League, comes out and says, all right, Samoa, Tonga, you're going to be tier 1 nations now. How many of those players will pull out because they want to pull out of playing for Samoa or Tonga because they want to play Origin? Do you think that'll
Oh,
change? That'll change if they win to tier 1?
it would have to change, and it should change. Like I don't quite see why you can't. I get that it's good for the game and it's good for the international game, but you can't just sort of pick and choose your rules around players wanting to play state of origin. Like if these guys really are that proud of their nation and want to represent their nation, then they'll be willing to give up a jersey for a state that belongs to a country that they don't associate with. So it just seems, yeah. I mean, I'm all for making them tier ones and because it's getting a bit ridiculous. Like when you can be like,
It is. It is. Yeah.
I bleed blue, but then I won't play for the country, and like it's just disrespectful to the Kangaroos jersey as well. Which I mean, they don't need the players all the time. They're still going to be, the cream de la cream and the team to beat in international rugby league. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's got a bit ridiculous, when you look at those teams, and
Yeah.
the fact that if you're going to do it, then just like if you play for the Kiwis, you can play state of origin as well. Like what's the difference when you look at those
Yeah.
teams? Apart from the
Yeah.
fact that
Exactly. Exactly.
the New Zealand Rugby League union's probably got a bit more cash, and that's about the only difference really. So, and even then they probably
Yeah.
don't, not that much of a financially more better position, I imagine.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if the Samoan team, for example, don't mind having a pay cut just to play for the Samoan team. Just they'll do it because they love playing for Samoa.
Oh yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure,
I
for
don't know
sure.
the financial situation, but I wouldn't be surprised. Is what I'm saying. But you're right. But you
Yeah,
look, you got Murray Tuolangi, Queensland, Brian To'o, New South Wales, Jerome Luai. He's. I don't think he was there this year, but usually plays for New South Wales. Papali'i as well, and Payne Haas, New South Wales, Jeremiah
no,
Nanai, who's I don't think he played this. I can't remember if he played Queensland this year or not. But guys
yeah, he
have
did.
done been up there in the big arena. So
Yeah,
what was that? Sorry.
yeah, he did. He did. Yeah,
Yep. Oh,
yeah,
he did. He did. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So that's a stacked team, and I think the Kiwis is a pretty good team too. But I was surprised that Chance got the nod ahead of Keano Kenny. I know Keano Kenny didn't play as much this season, but I still think that he's. I think he would be a better fit fullback in my opinion. Yeah, and then Xavier Williamson is a bit of a hard one. With Nelson now, Big Nelson getting their spot on the bench. Aaron Clark on the bench as well. Dally M lock of the year, still can't get a starting spot in the Kiwis, but at least he's there. I think it's pretty. It's a pretty good side. I know the halves is a bit different with no Jerome Hughes, but Kieran Foran, I'm expecting him to last sort of showing in the Kiwis jersey against Samoa and Tonga. I just think that hopefully, I just believe he's just going to pull something really awesome out of the bag,
yeah.
and good for him. I'm glad he's there. Yeah.
It's awesome, mate. Yeah, you
Yeah.
look at. I mean, you
Anyway,
talk
well,
about
look,
Aaron
we're
Clark.
gonna we'll talk more about that.
Just
Eh?
I was real quickly just going to say, you look at Ian Clark, not being able to make the starting lineup, but then you realise that it's because it's Fisher Harris, Moses Leota, and Joey Tapine. So, our middles are pretty good. And we've got Aaron Clark on the bench as well. So, yeah, looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm calling it that Samoa's going to win the comp, bro.
Oh, oh, yeah. I mean, it's a fair tip. It's a fair tip. I mean, I personally think the Kiwis will still get over the line, just, but it won't be easy. It won't be easy because those teams do look amazing, and those teams do look amazing, and it's good for the game. It's good for the game, but yeah. So look, we'll leave it at that for now in terms of the Pacific Championship because we will go on and we'll do another live episode when come time for the Pacific Championship. But look, I think we should wrap it up there. That's just our wrap up episode for Couch Coaches for 2025. But do you wanna end us off, mate? Do you wanna finish us off, mate? End us off. What the heck? Finish us
End
off.
you off, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, just if you're still listening, it's obviously been a bit of a mission. We have had a few technical issues throughout, so hopefully it hasn't come across like that. But yeah, if you're still listening, hopefully you've enjoyed it. You've learned a thing or two. You've enjoyed our insight. As always, got any questions, queries? Get in touch. Leave a comment where you're listening. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We love getting
Yeah.
amongst the comments and hearing what you have to say. Obviously, we're heading into a few months of lonely months. Once the Pacific Championship's over, we'll have a few lonely months of no footy. So it's always good to just have the odd question coming through. So thanks for listening throughout the NRL season. We'll try get a bit of content out the next couple of weeks, Pacific Championship related. And up the Kiwis, even though I think Samoa will win.
Have the Kiwis. Good night, everyone.